Hello, Health Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I am so excited for you to dive into today's episode. I want to make sure you know about the amazing cyber sales that are about to wrap up. They're about to end, but you still have time to jump in and take advantage of these really great savings. So I'll be really quick. I'm going to let you know about them, and I'm also going to put the details in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com, and wherever you're listening from, where it's Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're listening from, there should be a little area that shows the details, more details, and you click on that and you should see all this information there. So number one, we have Analemma, the structured water device that I use daily. I have some interviews about it, interview 498 and episode 508. So go back and check those ones out if you're like, structured water, that sounds interesting. Let me tell you, it is. It increases your gut microbe health. It increases your cardiovascular health. They've done studies. And it increases the health of plants. And they actually can see that it increases the output of the mitochondria. So it helps our mitochondrial health. It's really fascinating. I noticed after the first 3 days of drinking the structured water that this low grade like depression that I'd experienced for a few years after losing our daughter, it dissipated. And I just noticed it was replaced by this like just constant low grade humming of happiness. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. What a interesting shift to have, like an emotional shift from integrating something as simple as just taking 90 seconds every time you fill up your water bottle, taking 90 seconds to structure it with the device. And they've since come out with a whole house unit. So then you don't even have to do that. You have a plumber install it into your house, and then all the water coming into your house is structured. Or the gardening unit, if you are an avid gardener. My house plants doubled in size really quickly after I began to I had to like move them. They were like, I had them by the window and they grew too big, too fast. It was pretty interesting. But the health of these plants went out of control when I started using out of control in a good way, like super healthy, when I started using the structured water, the Analemma structured water device. And when it structures the water, it doesn't then go chaotic again. It's really interesting. So listen to those two episodes, 498 and 508. But right now, until Friday, the 6th of December, we have a special promo code. It's LTH25. So when you go to learntruehealth.com/structured water, that's all one word, learntruehealth.com/structured water, and then use coupon code LTH25 as in Learn True Health and then the number 25. You're going to get 25% off all of their products. So the whole house unit, the gardening unit, or just the little personal size unit, which is affordable. It's also a really, really cool gift to give at Christmas. So if you have a friend who's like a biohacker into like health stuff, this is one of those easy things. It's also a fun magic trick. If you have guests over, you have friends over, or you're going over to a friend's house, I love doing this. I take my little Analemma structured water device, and I structure a glass of water and then have a glass of water that's not structured. And then I tell them, okay, don't look, I'm going to switch them up. And only I know which one's structured. And I have them sip each one. And 100% of the time, people can tell a difference. They're like, it tastes different. It feels different in my mouth. It feels better. It feels like it's easier to drink. It just feels silkier. It's really interesting. I've had friends say, this feels like my body's absorbing it better. It's really interesting that you can actually feel the difference, and you can even see the difference as you use the device. After you stir the device in the water for about 60 to 90 seconds, and you can watch the water changes viscosity. It actually shifts and changes. It's really interesting, but there's a lot of really cool science around it. So go listen to episodes 498 and 508 and get the coupon code LTH25 happening right now for 25% off. And they normally do give us a bit of a discount. So coupon code LTH if it's after Friday, the 6th of December. If it's after that date, don't worry. You can still use coupon code LTH all year long and get the nice discount that they give us. But right now it's 25% off, which is really cool. My next favorite thing is my sauna. I have my sauna right here. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a nice wooden sauna in my small office. It's quite a small office. And what's cool about the sunlight and sauna, it's kind of like a TARDIS if you ever watched Doctor Who. It really it doesn't take up a lot of room on the outside, but you sit in it and you're like, wow, this is really roomy. It doesn't look like it's this big. So my husband and I can both fit in the single person sauna, and it's a 3-in-1 sauna, meaning it's far infrared, near infrared, and mid infrared. And that helps your body produce collagen. It helps with skin health. It helps with recovery. It helps with pain, decreases inflammation. And the reason why I got it is I had heavy metal toxicity and I had liver problems, and I wanted to detox and get rid of the gunk out of my body through my skin, because your skin helps you detox all those obesogens and forever chemicals and microplastic, all the crap that's all the processed crap that's out there, all the chemicals. Your body sweats it out. So I use the Sunlighten and you get rid of it through the sweat. It also has all these other benefits like cardiovascular health. So you can listen to, I have an episode 245. I have several episodes actually with cardiologists talking about the benefits of the Sunlighten sauna. You can just type in Sunlighten sauna on my website, learntruehealth.com, to find those. But episode 245 is with the creator of Sunlighten sauna, and she's wonderful. And they're giving us such a cool special from now until December 6th. $1,000 off, includes free shipping. And you can go to learntruehealth.com/Sunlighten sauna. That's learntruehealth.com/Sunlighten sauna. And you can purchase it through that, or you can call them and talk to them. They're wonderful people. They're really great. They also do like payment plans. That's how I bought mine. And I was able to do it on a payment plan, and that way it's affordable. So you have a wonderful sauna. And they even have a personal sized one that kind of packs up and you can put it in the closet when you're not using it. That one's also a great choice for if you don't have a ton of room. But mine takes up just a very small fraction of my small office, and I love it. And I highly, highly recommend it. I use it all year round. Although wintertime, it is super nice to get into a hot sauna. And also, it's very easy to breathe in there because the way the near, mid, and far infrared work, you feel hot, but it feels comfortable. It's not like one of those saunas where it's 160 or 180 degrees. It's like 130 degrees, but it actually is really comfortable to breathe in there and sweat because it's heating your body up on the inside. You also have light receptors, and we talk about that. So it really feeds the body that light that we're missing. My next favorite thing is the organic mattresses. You will get the best sleep of your life. We got one, I think it's been 7 years now. It's 7 or 8 years. And I absolutely love the Organics mattress. I am in love with it. I've had 3 interviews about it. It's wonderful. And they are giving a massive discount. So, and they also have a really great, because I think this is the big question. If I'm ordering a mattress online, what if I don't like it, right? What if I lie on it and I don't like it? They have this amazing return policy. And I think it's something like, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's something like 180 days. It is a very long time that you are given to try it out. Let it, just let yourself get used to it. Give it a few weeks. I fell in love with this mattress. It is absolutely amazing. My husband and I joke that we don't like going on vacations because we miss our mattress too much. We had an RV once. We brought our mattress in the RV with us because it's that comfortable that we don't want to be without it. So they're doing a great sale right now. So if you're like, oh man, the mattress we're sleeping on, I'm kind of like stiff every day. And by the way, mattresses usually deteriorate after 5 years of use. So most people are sleeping on a mattress that is in some way unhealthy for their back. That's kind of like bent and pushing on their pressure points and doing more damage to their back. So if you're in that position where you're like, I really wish I could have a better mattress that's actually healthy for me, 20% off the mattresses plus free white glove delivery. That's $2,000 in savings. And then they have a 30% off bundles with 4 accessories with free standard shipping. And it just depends on which mattress you're buying. So go to organicsbed.com/learntruehealth. That's organics with an X, ORGANIX bed.com/learntruehealth. You can also give them a call. They're really sweet people. They're really great. I love their bed. I highly recommend it. That sale is ending soon, so you want to give them a call. And you know what? No matter what time of year, they offer a great discount, a great savings for my listeners. So even if you're listening to this and the sales ended, they offer a really great, like a really sweet deal. And it's worth trying because, in the next 5 years, your mattress is going to start wearing out. So think of your next mattress, get the Organics mattress, and let me know what you think. Every listener that's ever gotten one told me it was life-changing. And it's life-changing for me, but it's also fun when other people report to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I love my Organics mattress. So check it out. organicsbed.com/learntruehealth. Okay, 2 more left. Life Spa Ayurvedic supplements. learntruehealth.com/lifespa is now until December 5th, 20% off site-wide. I love their Ayurvedic herbs. So like the turmeric blends, and they've got wonderful herbs for digestion. Just check it out. You can listen to my interview, episode 505, about using that ancient wisdom and modern science to help the body heal through these healing herbs. Okay, last thing I got to let you know about is the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That's where I went and got my year-long health coach training program. Absolutely love them. Well, they have more than just health coach training. So you don't have to become a health coach to go take their trainings. You can go take their trainings if you just want to learn how to balance your hormones or heal your gut or manage your stress. They have these micro classes that are phenomenal, and I love the teachers there. You can go to learntruehealth.com/coach and get a free sample class, learntruehealth.com/coach. And right now they have a 30% off site-wide. You want to check that out soon because that is definitely going away, that cyber sale. So jump in if you're like, man, I would love to learn how to correct my gut and take my gut health to the next level, or I'd love to balance my hormones. Or I'd love to, just look at, they have at least 12 different courses that are super interesting, in addition to their flagship, which is the health coach training program. So a lot of people take the classes just for their own personal benefit or just to add more tools to their tool belt. So you can check that out, 30% off right now, and use the coupon code LTH to get that discount. So 30% off, coupon code LTH. Thank you so much for being amazing listeners, sharing my episodes with those you care about. This is going to be one of those episodes you're going to want to share with your friends and family. Share this episode with those you care about because it is definitely a life changer. So thank you for sharing, and have yourself a wonderful rest of this holiday season. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 535. I am so excited for today's guest. We have kind of a celebrity on our hands today. Udo Erasmus. You've been in this industry for, I think, over 40 years. Back when I was first exploring health on my own as a young adult, I think it was in my late teens. I was, when you're around 18 years old, 19, 20, you start making your own health choices. And I worked summer jobs, so I had my own income, and I gravitated towards the health food store, like those really authentic health food stores where you walk in and you smell herbs and that musky herbal smell hits you. I haven't found one of those true health stores in many years, but this was up in Bracebridge, Muskoka in Ontario, Canada. And I walked into the only health food store in 100 kilometers. And I love that smell. And right there in the refrigerated section, they had the Udo's Oil 369 blend. And I was really newly into discovering what I wanted to do to rebuild my health, because I'd kind of torn down my health through making really bad choices as a teenager, eating the same way all my friends ate. And I was starting to try to reclaim my health. And I found this omega-3 oil, and I ended up making like curry dressings with it, not heating it, of course, but making like salad dressings with it. And I can still, in my mind, I can still taste it, and it tastes so good. And there's something that was just buzzing for me, that I don't know if it's that flax oil taste combined with the curry, the turmeric, and it had this, of course, it's a healthy flavor, but my cells started buzzing. And in my mind, I can still, over 20 years later, I can still taste it in my mind, that flavor of me first attempting to get my health back, my beginnings of my own health journey. And through the years, and every time I see your product in the health food stores and in the grocery stores that I go to, because I tend to go to the grocery stores that carry your line. That's because I'm looking for, local, organic, and more healthy choices. And it always just brings a smile to my face. So when I found I had the opportunity to interview you, I thought that would be really fun. I think there's a lot of confusion around oil. I've interviewed a lot of doctors, and one of my mentors who helped me so much with my health, he tells people to stay away from oil, but what he's referring to is cooking oil.
Yeah.
And when it comes to omega-3, 6, and 9, like flaxseed, he doesn't say stay away from it. He says we have to make sure that it's not exposed to oxygen, that it's not damaged by that exposure to oxygen and to light, and it hasn't gone rancid, because oil, the moment we remove fat from fiber, can begin to oxidize as it's exposed to oxygen. So there's a lot of nuances when it comes to using oils, but I think that the majority of Americans and those around the world, not just America, but Canada and those around the world, we're using oil in an unhealthy way, and we definitely still have a nutrient deficiency epidemic going on, where we're consuming calories but not nutrition. And so I can't wait to dive into this topic with you today about how we can nutrify the body and make sure we're getting enough of the omega fatty acids, but without damaging our body from the more damaging oils. So Udo, welcome to the show.
Well, glad to be on. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take us back because I'm really curious about your journey. Take us all the way back to the beginning, and what led you to want to create the Udo's Choice brand?
The long story is I was born during the Second World War, and I was a war baby, and we were refugees, and I was an orphan for a short time, because of all the craziness that is still going on in Europe, and the same craziness that goes on everywhere, where people don't pay attention to peace and cooperation, and then they drift towards war. So, and that really formed me to be always asking questions, like to question everything and to try and understand, how can you make life better? And I started that when I was 6. I listened to people arguing, and I was like, it just made me really uneasy. I was very, very sensitive as a kid. And I listened to an argument, and this thought came and said, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this little cocky voice of a 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything is, I'm going to find out how. And so I was born scientist, always figuring out how things work. It also was good for security, because I was pretty insecure. I never knew what I could trust, and didn't feel safe. And science is really good because it gives you predictability and control. And so I got into science, and long story short, got into science, then biological science, then psychology, then medicine. Only lasted a year because we were told to lie to people. They said a doctor should sound as though he knows what's going on, even when he doesn't. We call that lying on the farm. And I thought I was going to learn about health and life and soul and all of that, because that's what those words mean: biology, psychology, medicine's about healthcare, and never learned about life, never learned about soul, never learned about health in university. I spent 8 years there, and then I left. And then I took a whole lot of different trade jobs, because I wanted to know what it was like to be in the shoes of the people doing those jobs. So I got a lot of practical experience, carpentry and painting and logging and mining and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually I got married, and we had 3 kids, and my marriage broke up, and I was really angry. So I took a job as a pesticide sprayer.
Whoa.
Because, the only reason we make pesticides is to kill living things. And I wanted to kill something. And so I took this job, and 3 years later, I was really careless, and I got poisoned by pesticides. And at that point, because I had really good background in biochemistry and genetics and biological sciences, I got really interested in health, because when I went to the doctor and said, "What do you have for pesticide poisoning?" she said, "Nothing." So I said, okay, I'm on my own. And so I used my background to dig into the research about nutrition and health, nutrition and disease, because the body's made out of food. It's also water and air, but I was just thinking food at that time. So if the body's made out of food and something goes wrong, then if you raise your standard, within 1 year, you can have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. That's what healing is. That's what healing is. That's why healing is possible, because your body is always turning over. The atoms in your body, 98% of the atoms in your body today will have been removed and replaced if we meet on this date next year. 98%. So the body is a major construction site, and you improve the construction by improving the building materials. And so I was looking at everything: minerals, vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids. Those are the essential nutrients that the body can't make and has to get from outside. There's 42 of them. And I got stuck on fats because it was really contradictory, just like it is now. People saying, don't use seed oils, don't use omega-6s. I got a study that said omega-6 is an essential nutrient, which means you can't make it, you have to have it. It has to come in from outside. If you don't get enough long enough, you die. This is like really important building blocks for health and body construction. But if your health is deteriorating because you're not getting enough, but you bring enough back before you die, then all of the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows how to use them to build a body that works, provided we take responsibility at our mouth to make sure they land in our body so life can use them. That's what essential means.
Yeah.
And the very next study I read says omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And literally my head exploded. It was like, wait, it's essential for me to take so that it can give me cancer and kill me? There's got to be something wrong here. You can't have it both ways. And so it was that contradiction that made me, I said, I must be missing something. And how can those both be true? There's something going on here. And that made me look deeper into how oils are made. And I found out that when oils are made the way industry makes them, and this is true for all of the colorless, odorless, tasteless oils that you buy everywhere, they treat the oil with harsh chemicals, and then they heat the oil to frying temperature for half an hour. So this oil has been fried before it goes in the bottle, before they put it on the shelf for you to buy. And that in that process, it's called, they treat them with sodium hydroxide and phosphoric acid, which are very corrosive base and acid. And then they bleach them with bleaching clays. And then they deodorize them to get rid of the bad odor that develops. And they do that at frying temperature for half an hour. So about 0.5 to 1% of the molecules of the oil are damaged by the processing. Oh, that was news. So I called the Oil Chemist Society, which is the umbrella organization for the oil industry. Said, I want to talk to a researcher. So they put him on the line, and I said to him, when you know that the way you process oils does damage to them, why do you do that? And he said, well, one of the reasons we deodorize the oil, that's the high temperature process for half an hour, is we can get rid of half the pesticides in the oil.
Oh my gosh.
My head exploded again because I got poisoned by pesticides. So this is not good news. I didn't even know at that time that there were pesticides in oils. And most people probably don't, because they don't think about it. So I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? The other half of the pesticides stay in the oil? And I didn't say that to him, but I said to him, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? Then you don't have a pesticide poison problem that you need to deal with. And I got a long silence at the other end of the phone. And I waited. I don't know, it might have been only 3 seconds, but it seemed like about 3 hours. So then he got back to me, and he was really angry. He says, I don't know what your problem is. The oil is 99% good. It's only 1% damaged. And if you got 99% on an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? And he just like total power trip. So now I'm backing off. I said, well, it's only 1%. Maybe I'm overreacting. So I decided we had a saying in science when I studied this: when in doubt, do the math. Right? Numbers don't lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, so if I have a tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged by the processing, how many damaged molecules will be in that tablespoon? And I want to ask you that question because most people don't have a basis for making the estimate.
Right. I have no,
And so,
I don't know how many molecules are in a tablespoon or a teaspoon of oil.
exactly. That's and so give it a shot because you'll see why this is going to be very useful.
Okay. 10 million.
Okay. Good job. 10 million has 7 zeros, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to know the actual number?
Yes.
You would have to add a 6 in the front, and then you would have to add another 12 zeros.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 60 quintillion damaged molecules, which amounts to more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells in 1 tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged. Now, people use 2 to 4 tablespoons a day. There's pesticides in the oil. There's plastic in the oil because oils swell plastic and plastic leaches into oils quicker than into water. And then if you use the oil for frying, you have to multiply that number by another 3 to 6 times because in the frying pan, you damage the oil further by both oxygen, not both, by oxygen, light, and heat all at the same time. And then you do that for 30 years. So you have to multiply that by another 11,000, the number of days in 30 years. And that's how many damaged molecules that did not exist in nature you introduce to your body in those 30 years. And then you get, the research says, increase inflammation. This damage increases inflammation and the risk of cancer. And then you get something and you say, I don't know why I got that. I always ate good, because you never knew that, because the industry has never given that airtime. Nobody talks about the damage done by processing. And so then out of that comes, we use these oils to do research, these damaged oils, the 1% damaged oils, right? Then we get negative effects in some of the research. And then instead of blaming that damage on the damage, the negative effects on the damage done to the oil by processing, people who haven't done all their homework blame that on the seed oils or the omega-6s. And then they go around and say, don't use seed oils, don't use omega-6s. Right now, there's a lot of people saying that. None of those people have ever talked to me, and I have not been hiding. And they make assumptions about what I'm doing that are completely off the wall, right? And then all the people who don't know it either, they then hear what somebody says who's loud. There's some very big loudmouths in the industry, so they make noise, and then everybody who hasn't done their homework will parrot them. And that's why right now everybody's saying, don't use seed oils, don't use omega-6s. But there have been books like that over 40 years that I've been doing this work. There have been probably 15 books like that. Only right now there's several books like that, and they're making a lot of noise. And fundamentally, you have to say these guys are blaming the oil for what should be blamed on the damage done either by processing or by food preparation, because we wreck them ourselves in a frying pan. And none of these people have done their homework to look into why they're getting these negative effects. There's other issues too. We've lowered our omega-3 intake down to 1/6 of what people got 150 years ago. And we've raised our omega-6 intake at least double, but maybe even 10 times as much as what people got 150 years ago. And so the balance between those two, they're both essential. You have to have them. The balance between them has to be right because they compete in your body. And the body converts them into a whole bunch of really important molecules. But they use the same enzyme system to do that. So if you get too much of one, it will crowd out the other. And then you'll become functionally deficient in the one that's being crowded out. It's called functional deficiency, which means you have it, but it ain't doing the work because it's being crowded out. It's being prevented from doing its work by the other one that you have so much of. And if you have too much of the other one, then it'll crowd out the one. So they have to be in the right ratio.
I want to slow down for people who don't know what EFAs are, what essential fatty acids are.
Yeah.
We've mentioned essential fatty acids. You used the word essential, and you said, there's nutrients, right? The body needs, there's like 90 essential nutrients. We need omega-3 and omega-6. Those are the EFAs, essential fatty acids. The body can convert. If it has enough omega-3 and 6, it can convert to 9. I know you've got 3, 6, 9 as the EFAs. But I'd love clarification on that because this is my understanding.
Okay, essential fatty acids, there are 2, omega-3 and omega-6. They're called alpha-linolenic acid, that's the omega-3, and linoleic acid, that's the omega-6. Out of those, the body makes a whole bunch of derivatives that we call essential fatty acid derivatives. Those include EPA and DHA that you find in fish oil and krill oil. Fish oil is seriously damaged because those omega-3 derivatives are even more sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and heat than the plant-based essential fatty acids themselves. The body makes omega-9 out of sugar and starch. The body can make saturated fats out of sugar and starch. So those are not essential.
Got it.
That's why they're not called essential.
Essential because the body isn't deficient in it, because those are that's something that's going to be in your diet no matter what. So it's not something you can become deficient in.
No, it's not like that. It's that the body can make them out of other stuff.
So if the body can synthesize it, it's not essential.
Yeah, essential, exactly. Essential means that your body can't make it from anything else. So you have to get that thing from outside.
Like vitamin C, like cats and goats and wolves can make their own vitamin C, and their body makes vitamin C, so they'll never have scurvy. They're not going to be deficient in vitamin C. They don't need to get it in their diet. We can't make vitamin C. It's an essential vitamin. We have to get it from our diet.
Correct. And I was just going to say that plants don't need essential fatty acids because they can make them from scratch. They make them out of carbon dioxide and water. That's all you need, right? Carbon dioxide and water to make fats. And plants make them from scratch. So we depend on plants to get them because we can't make them.
Yeah, and that's an important point because a lot of times people think, well, I get it from my salmon. But the salmon don't make them. The plants the salmon eat, or the smaller fish, right? The smaller fish eat the algae, and then so the algae is a plant, and so the plants in the ocean, and then the smaller fish eat that, and then the bigger fish eat them, and so on. But it's the animals don't synthesize these omegas; they get them from the plants. So let's skip the middleman, go straight to the plant.
Yeah, there are some fish that can make EPA and DHA out of alpha-linolenic acid, out of the plant omega-3. Mm-hmm. Those are usually plant-eating fish. The carnivorous fish get them from their diet. And it's algae at the bottom of the food chain that make EPA and DHA. And then the krill eat the algae, and the little fish eat the krill, and the big fish eat the little fish. And so the EPA and DHA made by plants works its way through the entire food chain by getting eaten by different creatures. So the plants actually are the foundation of most of the fish oil too.
There's other essential nutrients. So like you talked about, there's minerals, there's vitamins, there's amino acids, but you settled on oils because there's so much controversy, there's so much confusion. Yeah. And also because when I want you to, I don't want to say it, I want you to explain what the body does. Why is this so important? What is the body use these oils to make, and why
Okay.
is it so important that we make sure that we do get the healthy forms of oil and not the unhealthy forms of oil, because we don't
Yeah.
want to like gunk up the system.
Yeah.
Like you said, we can end up, if you eat the wrong kinds of fat, you end up you're starving your body of the healthy fats because it uses up the same enzymatic system. So
Yeah.
what does the body need this fat for?
Okay, so let me go through that. 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids that come from proteins, and 2 essential fatty acids are the 42 essential nutrients. And again, you can't make them. You have to have them. They have to come in from outside. If you don't get enough long enough, you die if you're missing any one of these. And if you bring them back in adequate quantities while your health is deteriorating from getting too little, then your body, that all those problems will be reversed, because your body knows, or life knows, how to make a body that works, provided you optimize your intake of all of the essential nutrients that it requires, that life requires to make your body workable. So that's the essential nutrients. I was looking at all of that, but I got stuck on oils because of the contradictions. And it was just like so much misinformation and confusion. And I felt I needed to know it to get healthy. So what the body does with the essential fatty acids, once you got alpha linolenic acid and linoleic acid, undamaged, made with health in mind, in the right ratio, your body makes out of both of them derivatives. Some of them are hormone-like regulating substances that are called eicosanoids, or prostaglandins, prostacyclins, thromboxanes, leukotrienes, and they regulate cell activity on a moment-to-moment basis from conception to demise. So these are super important in the regulation of functions in all of your cells. And not only that, the body also, especially out of omega-3s, makes substances that are called resolvins, which are very powerful anti-inflammatories, and resolvin because they resolve inflammation, which means they make inflammation go away. And also protectins, which are antioxidants. And they protect your cells from damage done by free radicals. So, and then their mycins are made from them. Those play a role in immune function. And endocannabinoids are made from them, and those play a role in mood regulation. If you get your fats optimized, your intake optimized, and you get the essential fatty acids in the right ratio, they've been shown to be able to increase IQ by 3 to 9 points. They're required for mineral transport in your cells. They make your skin soft, smooth, and velvety, because together, when you get them right, they form a barrier in the skin against the loss of moisture, and that makes your skin soft, smooth, and velvety. If your skin is dry, you need more oil. You need more oil in winter than in summer, because people notice in winter their skin gets drier because you burn more of these oils for heat in winter. Let's say brain function. They're super important in brain function. If you take the dry weight of your brain, which means your brain with all the water pulled out of it, more than 60% of what remains is fat, and it's omega-3 and 6 derivatives. DHA is the omega-3 derivative, and arachidonic acid is the omega-6 derivatives, and those are part of brain structure and brain function. Let's see what else. They are super important in vision. Your retina has a lot of DHA in it. That's the omega-3 derivative. And those are important for vision, important in sperm formation, super important in pregnancy, because when a woman is pregnant, she needs to build two brains. Like she needs to maintain her brain, and she needs to build a new brain in her womb. And because there's so much fat in the brain, if a woman isn't getting enough omega-3, and 99% of the population does not get enough omega-3 for optimum health. So what happens, women who don't get enough omega-3 in their diet, the child will take them out of her, her brain, because nature says, well, the child is the future and mom is the past. So if we have to sacrifice mom for the kid or the past for the future, then we will do that. And so that's one of the reasons why women get baby brain after they have a kid, or they get depression. And they've shown that every child depletes the mother further. Each child gets less than the previous child. That's why they think the oldest children on average have the highest IQ, and IQ goes down with birth order. And they also think it's why women get 2 to 15 times more depression, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, collagen inflammatory, and autoimmune diseases than men do. They think it's the depletion of essential fatty acids, particularly omega-3, that is the reason for why women get those conditions so much more often. And so they say super important for a woman to have enough essential fatty acids in her diet, both for her own health and for the health of her children. So it goes on and on. It makes your hair and your nails grow better. They'll grow about 25% faster if you optimize your intake. We've worked with athletes. If you give them a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day of the blend that we did the study with, which is Udo's oil, within a month, within 30 days, if they did their sport to exhaustion, their performance improved by 40 to 60% on average. And then we took them off the oil to see what would happen, and they lost that extra edge. Then we put them back on, they got the edge back. Then we were going to take them off again one more time, and they quit because they liked the energy they were getting, because they were competitive athletes. And so that ended the study. So we ran it. We saw it twice, how taking the oil improved their performance, and going off the oil made their performance decrease. Especially in endurance sports, you want to run those. You want to do those on oil, because if you carb load, like for a marathon, for instance, the carbs will only get you 20 miles, and a marathon is 26 miles. The person who did the most miles run in 24 hours, which was, I think, 152 miles. That's like 6 marathons. One guy did that in 24 hours. He did that using that oil. And let's see, what else do they do? They're good for bone strength because they inhibit the bone breakdown cells. They help people build muscle faster. They increase they increase stamina, but they also speed healing to a third to a half the time. They decrease inflammation very consistently when people have joint pains. They get benefits from it. They increase energy metabolism and oxygen turnover. That's what gets you most of your energy in your mitochondria. So they're super important for mitochondrial function. And if you damage the oils, and this is why the idea of making oils with health in mind is a big deal. Mm-hmm. The industry doesn't do that. But when you damage the oils, the damaged molecules never existed in nature. So they'll go where these oils need to go in your body. And wherever they take up space in your body, they interfere with what's supposed to be going on there. And because they're everywhere in your cells, in your cell membranes, and in your organelles, and as an energy source, they're everywhere in your body. So they interfere with everything when you damage them. And 1% damage, it gets you more than 1 million damaged oil molecules for every cell in your body. That's a lot of cells. That'll change gene expression in the direction of disease. Because because that's what oils do. Oils, that's the essential fatty acids, also regulate gene function of probably 10 10% of the genes. So that'd be like 2,300 genes. And when you damage the oils, then you regulate gene expression in the wrong direction.
Mm.
So I don't know. Have I missed any part of the body?
Oh, well, so every cell wall in the entire body is made of this healthy fat, right? We have to think about the body. The body, like you said, it makes the brain, it makes the myelin sheath. That is the insulation of the nervous system.
It's part of it. It's not the whole thing, because you get saturated fats and monounsaturated fats in your membranes, in your myelin sheath as well. But they play a very important role.
But without it, then it's incomplete. The body can't make healthy myelin if we're deficient in the omega fatty acids.
Right, exactly.
And then the cell wall. So if you think about how, like you said, if you're consuming the standard American diet, or even if you're just trying to consume a healthier version of the standard American diet, and maybe you're eating out once a week and you're still eating some processed and packed foods, you're going to be eating canola oil and safflower oil and some other soybean oil, whatever. All these oils, they're damaged, and these damaged oils, if it is a million damaged molecules, we're going to put aside, we're just wiping aside the fact that there is a tremendous amount of man-made chemicals in these oils, plastics, hormone disrupting, like endocrine disrupting chemicals, obesogens, all that stuff. We're just going to put that aside. Also, like these chemicals drastically negatively impact the immune system and cause cancer. So we're just going to put that aside. Just let's talk about, let's say you're being health conscious and you focus on organic. It's like, but it's organic canola oil. Okay. Well, still, it goes through this process that they do when they make this canola oil or whatever, soybean oil, all these seed oils.
Yeah.
Even I want to bring up avocado oil, but I'm going to finish this thought first, and that's that you have a cell, and I'm imagining one of your 37.2 trillion cells in your body. Yeah. I'm just imagining one beautiful, brilliant cell in your body. Maybe it's a heart cell, maybe it's a liver cell, but the cell is really important. And here we have the membrane that the body needs to make. You make the membrane, and it needs to make the membrane, which is the outer shell of the cell, to protect the cell, like make it healthy, keep it healthy. And to keep a cell healthy, it has to be able to have those healthy receptors that it can take in the groceries, and it can bring out the garbage, right? So cells that can't take in the groceries and bring out the garbage, and cells that can't have like insulin attached to it and other hormones attached to it, right? Because the cell wall is damaged or inflamed, because it has, for every cell, there's a million damaged oil molecules floating around that it's trying to build. So it'd be like, I love that you said construction site, because that's how I describe the body too. That's like the body shows up every day, and the workers show up to build the body. But if you don't bring the materials to the work site, the body's just going to build whatever you give it. It's going to try to build healthy cells. And if you give it McDonald's, like, you're building the Homer Simpson of a body, right? You're building like the stupidest, the worst health possible, because you gave it like, silly putty instead of lumber to build your house, right?
Or you sent the workers to the construction site without the tools they need to do the construction.
They show up, and the materials weren't there, and the tools weren't there. So you have this cell, and then there's the unhealthy fats. And back in episode 475, I had Dr. Patrick Vickers on. He has a cancer clinic, and he specializes in more holistic lifestyle medicine for supporting people who are choosing to go that route. A lot of times, unfortunately, people go the cut, burn, poison route, and it didn't work, and then they're like a Hail Mary, they go to his clinic. But it's better to clean the body up first before you get that diagnosis. So he talks about how important it is to choose the right kind of omega-3, and he actually talks about flax oil. And that flax oil has the correct charge, that when you make the cell membrane and you give it, for example, this unadulterated flax oil, it's never been heated, it's raw, it hasn't been exposed to oxygen, like really healthy flax oil, that it has the correct charge, that the cell pulls in nutrients, but that the unhealthy fats have the opposite charge and they repel nutrients. And I know I'm not being very scientific in my description of my memory of his explanation, but can you speak to that?
Yeah.
I'd love for you to maybe explain that in a deeper sense.
Yeah. So one thing I forgot to mention, the essential fatty acids, especially the omega-3, that's too low in 99% of the population, also makes hormones work more effectively at the cell receptor level. They increase the speed at which the transfers of the hormones are done to have their regulating effects in the body. And also that means as a person gets older and their glands become less efficient, they still maintain normal function for longer, because with the essential fatty acids, the hormones just function better at the cell receptor level. So that's actually a pretty big function. Mm-hmm. So the issue of the right and wrong fats, I want to say it different than the way he said it. They're part of the structure of the membrane. They also, by the way, they improve the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients, and they enhance flavors of foods. So there's another good reason why you want to have oil in your food. But you don't want to fry them. You want to add them to foods after they come off the heat. And by the way, flax oil was the first oil I developed in 1986, after I developed a method for making oils with health in mind. That's really my claim to fame. I developed a method for making oils with health in mind so that light, oxygen, heat don't damage the oils while they're being pressed and filtered and settled and filled. And then we put them in glass bottles and we put a box around them to cut the light out. And they're in the refrigerator. So, we're giving oils that need the most care, the care they need. What we usually do with oils, the most sensitive nutrients, we throw them in the frying pan. So we actually give them the least care of any of our nutrients.
Well, you and I don't throw them in the frying pan, but the average person uses oil to cook. And I've been cooking oil-free for 13 years. And it's, I have so many friends ask me, how do you do that? They'll come over to my house and watch me cook dinner. And they're like, how do you do that? How do you cook with no oil? And it's so easy. And now, back when I started doing it 13 years ago, there weren't a lot of YouTube videos teaching you how to cook with no oil. But now they're everywhere. Just Google oil-free and then whatever recipe or oil-free cooking on YouTube. There's tons of recipes, but it's super, super simple.
Cook in water.
You can cook. Yeah, you can. But I saute. I get a good caramelization on my onions. Yeah. I saute. It's just medium heat. And then you can add a spoonful of water at a time, and then you stir. And there's just a way of getting the right heat for the right, whether you're using cast iron or whether you're using stainless or ceramic, getting the right kind of heat. I don't use any kind of non-stick, I'm sure there's listeners who've never heard this before. So you want to throw out or, humanely recycle or donate your non-stick pans. Anything that says non-stick or non-stick coating is incredibly unhealthy. It's better to do stainless steel or cast iron, or there's certain types of healthy ceramics that don't off-gas negative things.
Yeah, I tell people, get your frying pan, turn it upside down, hit yourself up the side of the head with it, and then throw that stupid thing out and go back to cooking in water, and then add oils to the food after it comes off the heat source.
Yeah, or you could put it in a salad, or for the people who are like the athletes, they probably were just, taking spoonfuls of it, drinking it right out of the bottle.
Yeah, I don't recommend that, because oil is usually with foods, but there are lots of people who take it by the spoon. I tell you why I don't recommend it is because occasionally somebody will get in touch with me and say, I don't like the taste of your oil.
Oh.
And I say to them, okay, how'd you take it? Well, I take it off a spoon. So then I say, well, when is the last time you took cooking oil off a spoon? Oh, I never do that. Well, why are you doing it with mine? Oils will never taste like ice cream.
That's funny. I mixed it with a little bit of curry powder and it
Yeah,
was the most delicious
it's
thing
got
ever.
it.
I can imagine putting it like on a potato would be really good. But if you're putting
Yeah,
it on
got
hot
it.
food, isn't that hurting the oil, or does it matter cuz it's all going to the same place, your stomach, right
Well,
away?
yeah, that's the idea is you put the oil in the food just before you eat it. And the heat of the food will not is not enough heat to do damage. When you do high temperature without oxygen and light pressure present, if you do frying temperature, you actually turn the oil into trans fatty acids.
Right.
Okay, but the heat of your food, when you can eat your food, when it's cool enough to eat, you don't create trans fatty acids from that heat. What you do is you speed up the rate at which light and oxygen damage the oil molecules. That's why you put it on before you eat it. You don't let it sit around. You don't keep it. Like you could make a soup and have oil floating on top of the soup, and you could keep it on the stove, and oil would be damaged by the light and the heat. So you don't want to do that. So you cook your food in water. Then you take it off and you put it in your bowl with you're going to serve it in. Then you put the oil on. Then you serve it. Then you eat it.
The concept is that you're supplementing with a nutrient that your body is missing.
Yeah.
So but it's derived from a food. It's a food source. So I'm going to be a little bit controversial and ask, because this is when I coach my clients, I say, try to get your healthy fats straight from a whole food source. So like eat flax, eat chia, eat some healthy seeds.
Yep.
So I'm just going to be a little controversial in asking, like, why take the Udo's oil? Why not just eat flax seeds or chia seeds?
I have the perfect answer for you. Because people have said to me, we should just eat whole foods and we shouldn't do oils because that's how nature did it. And nature knows best. So then the question becomes, well, is optimum health nature's mandate?
Oh, good point.
And you can argue that. And here's how I looked at it. Nature wants you healthy enough to grow up. It wants you healthy enough to have kids. It wants you healthy enough to take care of the kids until the kids don't need you anymore. And when the kids don't need you anymore, nature doesn't need you anymore. And so you might be 40 at that point, right? So if you want to cheat nature and live longer, then you might have to high grade some of the essential nutrients. So so in order to test this thought that somebody's saying, oh, nature knows best, nature mandate is longevity, so you do it with whole foods. So I did a test on myself. I was in California for the summer, and I decided to get all of my oil from whole foods. So I was taking 5 tablespoons of flax and about 3 tablespoons of sunflower and sesame seeds. So that gave me the same ratio that we have in the oil. But I was getting it only from whole foods. And I couldn't eat more seeds than that because flax will actually absorb water and swell to 6 times its size. So my 5 tablespoons or 30 tablespoons, that's a meal, right? And then I had my other 3 tablespoons. So I was getting the oil from that. And even in summer, when I need less oil than in winter, my skin was getting dry from just doing whole foods. So my deal is listen, I'm not saying you should all take my oil and stop eating seeds and nuts. Seeds and nuts are good foods. Eat them. But if your skin is still dry, then add the oil to that. And in winter, I couldn't even do it in summer. Some people might be able to, because people's metabolism is different. But I couldn't even do it in summer. In winter, I need about 4 tablespoons. In summer, 2 to 3. Even in summer, I couldn't keep my skin from drying out. And if your skin is dry, you need more oil. You need more of the right kind of oil, because skin gets it last and loses it first, because it has super important functions in your heart and your liver and your brain. So they get priority on the oil, and only when you have enough in all of those organs does it make it to your skin. So skin gets it last and loses it first. So it's a good way to measure optimum. If your skin is soft, smooth, and velvety, you got enough. You don't need any outside gunk. And people who use oil that way have remarkably beautiful skin. And there are a lot of people in the beauty industry and the acting industry that use the oil just because it's really helpful for beauty as well as health.
I like that you brought up that the skin gets the nutrient last and it loses it first, because this is what I've observed. I've been doing health coaching for 13 years, and I was mentored by two amazing naturopathic physicians and worked underneath them for the first few years with clients. And what we observed was that when we took someone who was sick, maybe they had, for example, heart condition or liver condition, and then we gave them all the essential nutrients and got them eating a healthier diet, their hair, skin, and nails did not improve immediately. It would be 3 to 6 months before they began to see any improvements in their hair, skin, and nails. And it was consistent that we'd always see this. And I thought that was interesting. And what they described to me was that the body does triage work. The body is so intelligent. It's this beautiful innate intelligence. I love how God made us. That the body's not stupid. I mean, we're stupid. We think we're smarter than our body.
Yeah, that's stupid.
like we go out and eat McDonald's. Like we are. I know. I always pick on McDonald's, but honestly, like if it has a drive-through window, don't go there, because there's no place that's serving you like homemade soup and steamed broccoli through a drive-through. Right? If they were, I'd be the first in line. There's zero healthy food you're gonna find. I mean, I'll say that I like that Wendy's has a baked potato, but when you try to build your body, and I love, like I almost started crying when you said at the beginning, you go, the body is made out of food, raise your standards.
Yeah.
And that is the most impactful thing out of over 500 episodes that anyone has ever said. You just summed up what true health is in one phrase.
Yeah.
And so what we have is we're going around thinking we're smart, right? Thinking we're smarter than the body. And the body does this beautiful triage work. So when you start giving it the essential fatty acids, it's going to repair the heart first. It's going to repair the brain first. It's going to repair the vital organs first. And then the leftovers afterwards are going to go to the hair, skin, and nails. Yeah, Skin's an important barrier to our health, but it's not beating our heart. It's not, filtering our... it's not doing the work of the liver or the heart or the things that are keeping us alive right now. Yeah. So when all the vital organs have been fully saturated, have been fully bathed in these nutrients, then the leftovers get to the skin. So the skin is this amazing mirror of what's going on. And when your skin starts to get better, you know that all the other organs got it too, got all those nutrients too.
Yep.
Also, with skin, I like to talk about how there's skin on the outside of the body, but think about all the skin on the inside that we don't see. Our lungs are made of epithelial tissue. Our entire digestive system, from our lips to all the way to the other end, are made of epithelial type tissue. And so if you have like this kind of dermatitis, or you have this like, you've got rashes and inflammation and scratchy, itchy skin on the outside, just imagine what's going on the inside. I've actually had a client, we 100% reversed her out of control adult onset asthma by increasing her omegas, her omega fatty acids. Yeah. And that is like the true testament to increasing your healthy omega-3. And like you said, the healthy ratios of 3, 6, and 9, but the healthy omega-3, increasing that, the body didn't have, a deficiency in drugs. The body had a deficiency in the raw building blocks. And when we get those raw building blocks back in, then the body can come back into balance. But if you go to an MD, their training, we have to remember, they've been trained by the pharmaceutical company. The pharmaceutical companies developed their education over the last 100+ years.
Yeah, they write the medical curriculum, and they basically train doctors to be drug pushers. But no one has ever died of a pharmaceutical drug deficiency. Because the body in nature was always made out of food, water, air, and light. That's it. There were no drugs. How do the plants stay healthy? How do the animals stay healthy? Because the plants made the protective molecules. And when you eat the plants, you get the protection that the plant made for itself, that protects you as well. Right? It's all we came out of nature. We're still part of nature. That's never going to change. We are never going to be adapted to be able to get better health from unnatural molecules than from natural molecules. That's crazy, and I was going to say something about the skin, dry skin. Skin gets it last and loses it first. And the reason why the skin gets it last, you can live with dry skin, but if your liver or your kidneys or your heart dried out, you'd be history, right? So you can live with dry skin. That's why skin gets it last, and that's why the body dies from the outside in that sense, right? And then so optimizing intake, and it's it's so easy to measure. Then, how's my skin feel? Oh, skin feels good. Oh yeah, I noticed the cold weather came. Oh, my skin is dry. Okay, take a little more oil. And it's always by that we measure optimum intake.
Now, not all fat is created equal, and we've sort of scratched the surface of that, but there are people who are doing now the carnivore diet, which I'm just going to say, if we really look at the history of dieting, it is a recycled Atkins diet. And every 20 years or so, we kind of recycle this concept of low carb. And, we also have in the diet movement, again, there's like at least 10,000 diet books out there. It's just madness. I really love the book How Not to Diet by Dr. Michael Greger, because it's not a diet book. He goes through about 5,000 studies, and it is wonderful. I've spent months going through this book. I'm still not done because it is so detailed and so wonderful. But it's all about coming back to let's look at the science. Don't listen to fads. Let's look at the science, and let's let the science do the talking. And then let's also compare the science when the science doesn't make sense, when there's two opposing studies. Let's kind of go deeper. And so that's what he does with that book. I had him on the show a few years ago. But this idea, and a really good book to dive into is Proteinaholic by Dr. Garth Davis. Wonderful, very cathartic for me to go through. It cleared up a lot of misunderstandings around the diet industry. There are some people who are finding that for example, keto, Atkins, restricted paleo, low carb paleo, and now carnivore, they're all very similar. Majorly restrict, if not 100% restrict anything to do with plants, and eat 90 to 100% animals. They're getting a lot of fats. They're getting a lot of animal fats. They're cooking sometimes on high heat, think barbecue or roasting, right? These animal fats. Because you're an expert in, understanding fats from the nutritional standpoint, what's the difference between an animal fat, like taking a steak and, maybe cooking it on a somewhat high heat with butter and getting a nice caramel, how you can caramelize get those heterocyclic amines and acrylamides going with the high heat. So eating that, right? Or eating that bacon and those eggs, right? And cooking, maybe getting the eggs a little crispy, getting the bacon a little crispy, right? So you're eating that fat versus like a cold pressed organic flax oil hasn't been adulterated by heat, oxygen, or light. What's the difference to the body?
Well, first of all, if you get your fat from steak, it's mostly saturated and monounsaturated. And steak is not a good source of essential fatty acids. A cow has some essential fatty acids in her brain, but you're not eating the brain. You're eating the muscle, right? So, so that's not a good source of essential fatty acids. And the thing is, you can live without the saturated fats because your body can make those, and the monounsaturated because your body can make those. The omega-9s, your body can make those. To me, the carnivore diet and the high protein diets, I know some people who claim that that's all they eat, and that's what keeps them healthy, and that's what cured them of some problems they had. I don't argue with that. If it gives you results, go for it. But I'd like to talk to those people who claim to do that. First of all, I'd like to see if they're really doing that. And the second thing is because people lie about stuff too, right? Mm-hmm. And the second thing is I'd like to see them in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. Because it might be for a short time, that might actually be useful and could be therapeutic for certain people with certain conditions. But long-term sustainable, I have some doubts. I know I can't do it, but I don't argue with results. If they're getting results, good for you, right? And people are different in how well they metabolize protein and how well they metabolize fats and how well they metabolize carbs. I would say that the keto diet doesn't work long-term sustainable, mainly because they don't pay attention to the essential fatty acids. Because all the keto diets, and even the coffee, the coffee fat diet.
Bro, the bulletproof coffee.
What are they using? They're using butter, which is mostly saturated, monounsaturated, and then they're using coconut oil, and it's a fraction of it. And and those fats are okay, but not instead of essential fatty acids, because essential fatty acids is the only thing from fats that you have to have. So you need to give that priority. Once you've optimized your intake of the essential fatty acids, undamaged and in the right ratio, then you can add other fats and they just become fuel for you. But they're not required. So, and I tend to, actually, if you look at nature's mandate for creatures that eat, fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, and probably for human beings, more plant-based than animal-based. That wasn't true everywhere in the world because where they had herds of buffalo, they ate a lot of meat. But generally speaking, the high animal food diets are not associated with longevity.
That's the important point, is that how our ancestors ate, why do we think that how we ate 2,000 or 5,000 or more years ago is somehow better? Maybe because they didn't have McDonald's then, but that doesn't mean that they were living longer or they were living with less disease.
Well, the Inuit had a pretty short life, and they were eating pretty much just meat diets, right? But in those meat diets, there was, the animals had a little bit of vitamin C in them, but they had no plants. So they probably, they died of strokes and strokes, burst blood vessel strokes. Well, vitamin C is very important to make your connective tissue strong. So they died from scurvy, basically, right? So, and what is a diet that works? When we were subsistence living, where we just starving half the time, you had to learn to be able to digest whatever you got. And plants were easier to get than animals because animals run away or they fight, right? And when the hunters had only rocks to hunt with, they came home without meat most of the time. So then if they came home without meat, then they ate vegetables because vegetables don't run away, they don't fight, so they're easy to hunt down and kill, right? So you have to take into consideration what life was like before we became food affluent. And now what we do is we're stupid. 70% of the food that people eat in North America is ultra-processed food.
It's not even food. It's not even food. It's so weird. You look at the packet, I dare you to bring your reading glasses. I'm sorry I'm calling you guys out. My husband has to wear reading glasses now. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful that I can see with I've needed glasses since I was 16 to see long distance. I am so grateful that I can see close up because I am the label reader, and I challenge you, if you need to bring a magnifying glass with you to the grocery store, just attach it to your purse or whatever, attach it to your keychain, bring it into the grocery store with you. And if you anything you put in your cart that has more than one ingredient, like for example, this is a bag of broccoli. I don't need to check the ingredients. It's broccoli, right? So single ingredient foods, you don't have to check. Anything in a package that has more than one ingredient, right? Look at the ingredients. And if you don't know what that is, like if it's, monosodium glutamate and hydroxy, and just like these weird words, if there are weird words that like your 8-year-old can't pronounce when they're reading the label, don't put it in your cart.
Yeah.
Why are we eating things that we don't know? These aren't like Latin words. They're not like describing broccoli in the Latin terms. These are chemicals that were made in a factory. Why do we think that's okay to give the workers in our body, to give the carpenters these building blocks that the body doesn't know what to do with it? The body's like, what is this? It kind of looks like that, but it doesn't function like that. Okay, well, we're going to put it there, and then the house falls down, right?
I pretty much, I'm 82. So, I should be an old guy who's drooling onto his lap. I'm not, but I pretty much have gone gradually in the direction of fresh, whole, raw, organic.
Love it.
I eat most everything raw. Not everything. And I eat lots of seeds and nuts. So I don't just use oil. I use seeds and nuts, but I tank up with the oil. I actually mix it in tahini, my oil in tahini.
Yum.
I dump the tahini oil, and then I put a ton of spices in it, like cloves and you were talking about curry and cinnamon and cayenne, and I've all kinds of herbs and spices because they are nature's medicine. And some of those spices, turmeric, cloves, amla, garlic. I use them all the time. Some of those spices are anti-inflammatory, anti-cardiovascular, anti-cancer, anti-diabetes, antioxidant, and they have so many health-giving properties.
Antimicrobial, antiparasitic.
Antiviral, antimicrobial, antibacterial. Honestly, it's like they're the medicine. And so I came to that much later than I came to oils. But oh my God, it's, and I have lots of energy, and I still work all day, and I have these conversations all the time.
I love it.
And I'm still doing research, and I'm actually writing 2 books, one on the nature of human nature, and the other one on total, global, sacred, sexy health.
Oh my gosh. I want you to come back on the show. We got to have you come back, and we got to talk more about your books.
Yeah, based in nature and human nature. And it's always from, health is based in nature and human nature. And if you live out of line with nature, you're going to not do well. And if you're going to live out of line with your nature, you're not going to do well. That's where illness comes from. It's being out of line with nature and or your nature. And we've been here for 200,000 years. We still do not have a teachable field of health, because our healthcare is not healthcare. It's disease management misrepresented as healthcare.
Yeah.
And so, and when I was in medical school for that 1 year, I went to the dean because we were only learning about disease. I went there because it's healthcare. I want to know what health is. Because if I know what health is, I know what to do to help somebody get healthy. Seemed like a pretty good way to spend your life, getting people healthy. I said to him, what is health? He said, we don't know. We're working on it. But they're not working on it because they're always focused on disease.
Because that's where the money is. There's no money.
I understand.
Right. There's no money in making and keeping people healthy and preventing disease. And with Canada, like I grew up in Canada. I know you're in Canada. it's the socialized medicine. Oh my gosh, there's people in America that want socialized medicine. I got to tell you, both systems are broken and on purpose. In Canada, it's the whole system is how do we save the most amount of money? So they might reject certain procedures, or for example, anytime I had an accident growing up that we suspected like a break, once I broke my growth plate in my ankle when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I had to get some x-rays. I got 2 x-rays, 2 only. In Canada, it's like you only need 2 x-rays. Anytime, they suspected a bone break, because I was a very active kid, being active. And so of course I fell down, I got bumps, I injured myself, and I bounced back really fast, but I got a lot of x-rays as a kid. I just loved being physically active. I was hanging upside down on the monkey bars and just all the stuff. So anyway, the point being, anytime in Canada that we thought it was a break, it was 2 x-rays only, never 3, never more than 3. Came down to the States. I was in my early 20s. I tripped in a gas station. It was really weird how all these like the hoses were everywhere, and I didn't see the hose. I tripped and I fell really bad, and I twisted my ankle, and I thought, oh, for sure this is a broken ankle. It's so painful. And so this is in the States now. Take me to the hospital. And I lost count of how many times they took x-rays. It's just an ankle. Like I grew up going 2 x-rays, right? One, you get the top side and you get the side. That's all you get. And they must have taken over 12. I was like, what is going on? And then it occurred to me, I'm like, oh, okay, America's for-profit system, they're going to profit off of how many x-rays they take of my foot. Like, it's not about getting the appropriate amount of, it was really the 12th one that we figured out it wasn't a break, right? But in Canada, it's like, how can we save money? Also not necessarily serving the person, because they're looking at cutting costs. Neither system helps you because they're not putting you first.
But I think there's another issue. There's like, okay, so we have socialized medicine in Canada, right? And in the US, some people want socialized medicine. But the thing is, it's not healthcare. It's all disease management. We don't need socialized disease management. We need healthcare. If it was real healthcare based on a definition of health that is practical and can be put into action, then I think socialized medicine that keeps everybody healthy, and when somebody gets some big problem, everybody helps to make them healthy again. I'm comfortable with that. It's a socialist thing, but honestly, there are certain things that, education is kind of socialist anyway. But I'm good for certain things that everybody gets covered. But it's got to be the truth. It can't be some bullshit that parades as truth. And when disease management is called healthcare, you're getting lied to by the people who do disease management.
Well, when the drug companies are the ones that can lobby and I've seen, I don't know a ton about politics, but I loosely watch it. And I remember when Bill Clinton came in and his wife, Hillary, tried to do something good around children's health and getting the school lunches healthiher. Mm-hmm. And she tried, and then all of a sudden, all the lobbyists came in. Like, how dare you try to take pizza and chocolate milk and sugar? How dare you reduce sugar and candy from the diet of these school children? Yeah. And it got vetoed. And then I saw it happen again and again. I know Michelle Obama tried to do it, and just every single presidency, they try to the good with the good intentions. Well, someone tries to lower the sugar that's being sold to children in the school lunches, and the lobbyists come in and make sure that all the sugar stays in there, and it's like we're not serving our population. We're not helping our population, because we allow for corporations that profit comes first over health. Yep. And why do we have to have commercials for food? And that's something that I brought up. You'll never see a commercial for broccoli, right? Broccoli's so good for you. No, it's always milk does a body good. We have been lied to. I grew up taking in this information without and without question, right? Without a critical faculty to like block it. Children take in this information and they go through the aisles trusting that what's in their cereal box is good and what's being served to them, this ultra pasteurized milk is good, and what's being served to them in the schools is healthy. When it is absolute garbage, it's destroying their health.
Yeah.
And the same goes for our healthcare system when we can't know the truth about our health because there's lobbying. So that's why we have to come to the podcasts like this and interviews, listen to interviews like this with guests like you to start to learn and question. We can't trust what we're fed by the media and by the government because the corporations that profit from us buying what they sell and profit from us staying sick, right? They're going to push that information. So tell me about how we can dive deeper with you. You have like your website. I wanted to ask also, do you have any recipes? Because you talked about like what you do with tahini and your Udo's Choice oil, the omega oil, and you mix it with your tahini and you add some seasoning. Do you have recipes on your website? Do you have other books that you recommend? What other kind of resources can we start to go down this rabbit hole with you?
I have a book. I have a book that's called Omega-3 Cuisine Recipes for Health and Pleasure, and I worked with a chef to put that together. He did most of the work actually. But he made recipes using Udo's oil. I think there's 140 recipes and only one doesn't use Udo's oil. So I have, so that book is the only book I have that's easily available. I kind of just tinker in the kitchen, it's like
me too.
Play, there's the only advice your mother gave you that you should not follow is don't play with your food. Because if you don't play with your food, how are you going to find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you?
You're so right.
And so play with your food, and if you mix two spices and it doesn't work, your tongue will let you know. Then you won't do it twice, right?
Right, and don't give up. I think that's really important because like I love the Instant Pot. It's my favorite kitchen. I mean, I think my second favorite's the Vitamix. I've been using Vitamix since I was like 8 years old. We had like the original one growing up in our household, I love my Vitamix. I love
the glass one.
Sorry,
the glass.
It was the metal one.
Oh, metal one.
We had the metal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the very first Vitamix, but it was, the 80s version. It was the metal one.
Yeah.
And I remember making soups in it. I just loved it. I love playing with it. But I have a Vitamix today and the Instant Pot. I love the Instant Pot. And I tell people, get it, try it. But so many people come back to me and said, I burned something once and I just gave up. And I'm like, yeah, I burned things too, like when I started, but I didn't give up. So it's like, okay, you just find different recipes. Just start with something simple though. Try making lentils, right? Go find a recipe, make lentils, just do something simple and then you can build from there. But I've made the coolest stuff in that Instant Pot. And I like it because you can, like, for me, I'm multitasking and then I walk away from the stove and all of a sudden I'm like, I smell burning. I'm like, oh no, I forgot. We're cooking something on the stove. Yeah. And so with the Instant Pot, that doesn't happen because you set it and forget it and then you've got a meal. And at one point I had 3 Instant Pots back when we had a bigger kitchen, a bigger house. I had 3 Instant Pots. I did most of my cooking because I had a whole grain in one or a starch, I should say, because I do sweet potatoes, yams, brown rice, white rice, millets, quinoa. I'd pick a starch, right? So it'd rotate all the different kinds of starches. And then I'd have a protein in the other. So it would be any kind of bean, any kind of lentil. Again, dozens of varieties, so it never gets boring. Yeah. And then the third, I would quickly steam some kind of vegetable or saute some kind of mixture of vegetables. And then I would have some kind of topper, like you could of course mix some Udo's oil with like some tahini, lemon, and garlic, and some cayenne and ginger, and call that good, or add a bit of curry powder, call that good. There's all kinds of different things that I'd top it with. And then that was it. That was called bowls. and we would open up the Instant Pots and have some kind of topping, and maybe the topping was just a salsa, right? And I do a fermented 3-day fermented pico de gallo. It's in the recipes in my book, Addicted to Wellness. I'll send you the recipe if you want. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I would, top it with something like that. And it was the easiest way to cook dinner. And usually what I would do is I'd make enough for dinner, for lunch and dinner. You don't get bored of it, especially if you have a few options for toppers. But that was it. Now, if all you have to do is have like a smoothie or some fruit for breakfast, and then throw things in the Instant Pot, and you've got lunch and dinner, and then you've got some leftovers to travel with the next day if you're leaving the house. And it was the simplest way. I ended up losing 80 pounds doing that, and it was the quickest, easiest way to cook in the kitchen. And it was that I didn't have to use my brain. It didn't take up a lot of energy. And yet it was just the whole family loved it, and it was super nutritious, super dense nutrition. I didn't have to buy packaged foods. So there's a way that you can figure out how to cook that serves you, but you have to be willing to burn a few things. You have to be willing to, like you said, play in the kitchen and that doesn't taste good. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. And it's okay. Don't let that sort of like that failure dictate future. Let it motivate you to find the flavors that are good together. And I was prone to burning things in the kitchen until I dialed it in. And you can too. It's a matter of playing. I love that you said that. Cooking. And it's funny. My son does that. He plays in the kitchen. He invents things.
Yeah. Yeah. Cooking is like learning to walk. If when you were a little kid, first you were just rolling on your stomach, and then you turned over on your back, and then you got on all fours, and then you started to stand up, and you fell down, and you didn't quit. So cooking is like that, right? You're going to fall on your schnoz, or you're going to, I saw one of the television cooks. She made something and on the show. And then she tasted and said, didn't taste good. And she just dumped it in the garbage on the show.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's like, why is so much variety in taste? Well, it's for your entertainment. Nature is so kind to you that you can play with it. And different people have different preferences in taste. You figure out what is yours, and what is the, and it's like, in India, everybody has a different curry recipe. Every family has their own curry recipe. And some of them are really very different from each other.
So true. You'd mentioned that you're 82. I want to say that my mother-in-law, my dear, dear mother-in-law, and we moved to live close to her. So we're a 3-minute walk from her house. Mm-hmm. She is turning 82 today. So I'm just...
Wow,
wishing her a happy birthday. We're actually, after this interview, we're going to go and spend the rest of the day with her. But I just love that you guys are the same age, and that I'm going to have her listen to this episode because I want her to hear the wisdom. And I'm definitely going to gift her a bottle of your 369, the Udo's 369. Tell us a bit about so the only product I think I've ever used of yours is the Udo's, the Omega blends. Mm-hmm. But you have different products. What are your most favorite that you have observed make the biggest difference in people's lives?
Well, after I did oils, I said, okay, what's next? And I went to digestion, because everybody's got stuff going on with their digestive system. So how do you make it work? Digestive enzymes, probiotics, fiber, and bitters. So that was the next thing that I looked at. I work with digestive enzymes and probiotics, take them every day. Mm-hmm. And even though I eat raw food, I still take enzymes, because even the people who eat just raw foods, they found that when they took enzymes with their raw food, they worked better for them than if they did the raw foods without enzymes, because raw foods already have enzymes in them that do part of the digestion for you.
Right.
So that's why it's good.
I like that what you're pointing out is that there's two ways of thinking. Well, there's 3 ways. One way is don't think at all, just go eat McDonald's, right? And then you live to maybe 65, have a heart attack, die. I tell my listeners, if you want to be a statistic, look at what people are dying from. Look at how and before they die, look at the quality of their life. Yeah. I have a friend a friend whose husband is in his early 40s. He this year suffered a heart attack and then he just broke his hip. He's in his 40s. He also has unmanaged diabetes, and
Other than that, he's really healthy, right?
No, actually, he's miserable. He's miserable, and the doctors were really scared. They're like, you're not recovering. You're like. You're acting like someone in your 80s or 90s, like someone really sick. And you're a very healthy 80-year-old, but this man he never took care of himself, and he has food addiction, unfortunately. But like, this is what's happening to those who are just not thinking. Right?
Yeah, well, you know what? When I was 38, I got poisoned by pesticides. That was 38. And literally, if I walked around a city block, I had to sit down and rest. I was like an 80-year-old at that point. I had arthritis in my knees. I got no problem in any of my joints. I'm 82 now. And and what came from it, when I got poisoned, that was my wake-up call. And so I started paying attention, and I put things in practice, over the course of a few years. And now I pay attention to what my body tells me and what I know about how nature works. And now I'm 82 and I have no pain in my elbows, no pain in my shoulders, no pain in my knees, no pain in my hips. It's like, so you can be 82 and not have any degenerative conditions or any pain or any inflammation.
And you have energy. And
I have lots of energy. I still do gardening jobs. So I take trees down, and
Love it.
in the city where I live, we have quite a bit of it's a co-op that I live in, and I do quite a bit of the gardening that whenever it's needed.
I love it. So the three schools of thought around food. Don't think about it. Just eat the way everyone's eating, and basically suffer the way everyone's suffering, right? Like, get on a bunch of drugs. That's the unconscious people, or the people who say, my doctor knows what's best, right?
Or the people who think that suffering will open the door to heaven for them, and maybe we shouldn't close the door on them.
Well, I think there's something to learn from our suffering, but I think we need to make better choices, because suffering is optional. And then the second choice is, well, I should eat as close to nature as possible, because that's the key, right? And then your third choice, and I love this idea that eat as close to nature as possible and then optimize it. Bring in the enzymes, bring in the minerals and the vitamins, bring in the things that optimize. Like the bricks are the food, and the mortar is the addition of everything we could do to optimize. I like to call it biohacking. I'm sure you've heard that term, like biohacking. But optimize, but without adding too much that it then hinders the body. I have a friend who for years had to avoid gluten, only to find out she wasn't allergic. She had got highly allergic reactions. And then she finally figured out it wasn't the gluten, it was the folic acid, the man-made synthetic folic acid that she was incredibly allergic to. And she could eat wheat berries, for example. Organic wheat berries have zero health problems. But if she ate some fortified bread, which most flours are fortified, even gluten-free flours, right, are fortified with folic acid, then she'd become very unhealthy. And so we have to take into account that if we're adding things, even if we're buying processed food that has additives, even though if it's quote unquote fortified, right? It can be fortified in a way that's not helping you. So when we're adding the supplemental to optimize, we have to
some gluten sensitivities, some wheat sensitivities are actually from the glyphosate that they put on the grains. So it's like
exactly. We have to understand that sometimes there's things in the product that aren't necessarily on the label, like the glyphosate, right? They're not going to disclose how much Roundup is in your flour, or there's like anti-caking agents, like the bromine or bromide. They don't necessarily disclose that because it's industry standard. Like in ice cream, when you buy ice cream from the store, there is a food grade antifreeze that they add to ice cream. That's why, have you ever made your own homemade ice cream and you put it in the freezer and that's rock solid? You're like hammering it with a spoon, and you have to leave it out on the counter before you can kind of scoop it. Whereas if you go to the grocery store, even out of a deep freezer, and you start scooping ice cream, even if it's coconut ice cream, it's going to immediately turn into this beautiful like scoop, right? It doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
That's because they put food grade antifreeze. Well, I don't want to eat food grade antifreeze. That doesn't sound like my body 5,000 or 10,000 years ago went through, the Garden of Eden and picked an apple and then drank some food grade antifreeze with that. So the body doesn't know what to do with all this crap. We're like trash pandas. We're like, if you think about how we treat our body, we're like dumpster diving. Right?
Yeah.
Like the cells of our body are like, what are we, in a dumpster? We're just dumpster diving, just random chemicals.
Yeah.
But this is how we eat. And so if we come back to eating as close to nature as possible and then supplementing, I love that you talked about enzymes and bitters. I love bitters. I love how my body reacts to bitters in such a positive way, because that gets that liver and the pancreas going, gets the digestion system activated. And I love that you brought up enzymes. I've helped so many clients get their digestion back simply by adding enzymes and then getting in the minerals and adjusting the diet. Yeah. And then everything comes back online.
Yep.
And a lot of times heartburn goes away because it was a lack of the body's ability to make pepsinogen and excrete pepsinogen. Yeah. So when you get everything back online, then the heartburn goes away.
Well, you know how it goes. It's like health. Health is the result of living in line with nature and your nature. When you get out of line, it shows up. And when you get back in line, you get your health back. Yeah. It's not that complicated.
There's a big craze. We talked a little bit about how like the MCT oil, that's coconut oil, it's fractionated, and it's not a great source of omega-3s. But avocado oil,
there's no omega-3s in it at all.
Right. So avocado oil has come on the market the last few years, and now everyone's like, that's the new olive oil, right? Like, oh, you got to cook with your coconut oil.
No.
Can you speak to what what avocado oil is and why we shouldn't be cooking with it? Like in general, like why we shouldn't be taking in avocado oil?
Okay, we shouldn't be cooking with oils because oils cook at a high temperature. You burn the food, the burnt is toxic. So if you burn carbs or you burn protein or you burn oil, all three of them get you increased inflammation and increased risk of factor independent of each other. Okay? So overheating foods is bad for you. So fried oils, fry health. That's my slogan, right?
Wow,
fried oils, fry health. You go to a football game and you chant, fried oils, fry health, fried oils, fry health, fried foods, fry health, fried foods, fry health, right? And that's why I say to people, bang yourself on the head with your frying pan and throw that stupid thing out because it's going to kill you, right? So frying is the worst thing we've ever invented to do to food in as long as we've been on the planet. It is the dumbest thing we've ever invented. If health is the goal, obviously, and then people say, "Oh, I love the taste of burnt food." No, you don't. If you scrape that burnt stuff off of the food you burnt and you eat it, it's bitter, scratchy, acrid, and it tastes disgusting. And when you fry your foods, usually how do you get taste into those burnt foods? Well, you add spices that are mostly from vegetables, right? So it's like, I think it's really dumb. Raw is nature's mandate. If you cook in water, you already lose something. So, and then if you fry, you not only lose some of your nutrients, you actually create poisons that never existed in nature. So frying is the worst. Then head in the direction of frying less, cooking more. Then cooking, by the way, when I was a kid meant in water. Now when we say cooking, we usually mean in oil. But cooking, one was called frying and deep frying. That was with oil. And cooking was with water. It's now that when you say cooking, it includes frying. So go from frying to cooking in water, and then go from cooking in water to more raw. And make sure it's not contaminated, because if it's contaminated, you have to cook it, or you should throw it out. Right?
What do you mean by contaminated?
Bacteria.
Okay, so how do you choose what you cook and what you don't cook and what you eat raw?
What I do is I get organic, and I wash it underwater. Like if I eat my broccoli raw, I dip it in the tahini, And I run it under hot water, so it gets a little bit of heating that actually improves its nutritional value. Short heating. And if it's organic and I've washed it under hot water, I've never had a problem with contamination. But if you have, if you especially meat, when the cows stand in their own feces and urine in a feedlot and only get corn for food, and then they got antibiotics and pesticides and other gunk that they put into the animals, then the meat is very easily contaminated. So meat is more of an issue for making sure that it's not contaminated.
There's an amazing documentary to watch on Netflix called Poisoned: The Dirty Truth About Your Food. It came out last year. I saw it with my family and we were in shock. It's really, really worth watching. I know it sounds kind of depressing, but it was actually really interesting.
It's always better to know than not to know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've never had food poisoning from vegetables. I mean,
Nope.
knock on my sunlight and sauna. It's made of wood here,
Yeah.
but I've only in my past I've had food poisoning from seafood or pork.
Yeah.
And I eat plant-based now, and I haven't. It's been years. Again, I'm gonna praise God that I have not, and I'm staying healthy. I'm not having food poisoning. But yeah, it's more. There's always a chance, right? They talk about that some spinach is taken off the market or something, and you just you have to wash your food and.
Yeah.
There's ways of doing it. I did an interview a few years ago with a woman who sells these, and I bought one. It's great. I use it. You can make your own ozone water safely, and then you can rinse your plants in ozone water.
Yeah.
There's different things you can do, but I kind of do what you do is I rinse my foods, and then that's it.
Yeah. And again, the spices that I use with the food help also.
True.
Right? Yeah.
True. Because you think about India, there's definitely a medicinal reason why the food is so spicy there, and there's such depth of flavor. There's so many medicinal spices. Is that because they're antimicrobial? So should, the meat have some, bacteria overgrowth, you're combating it with. It's like it's kind of like if we were to take antibiotics every time we ate some food. We took like you ate some pork and then you took some drug to counteract the potential, bacteria that or the toxins, the bacteria's toxins. But instead of going drug based, I'm so glad that pharmaceutical companies haven't figured that out yet. How to insist that we need to take some drug every time we eat meat to prevent food poisoning. Because they would. Because they'd love to sell you some kind of drug every day. But that's what India does, right? They use all these wonderful spices that enhance.
India never built the hygiene that we built in the West.
Right.
So they're much more prone to it. But they live, they don't have outbreaks of, that. And why is that? Because they're the way they prepare their foods.
With the spices that are very medicinal.
And it's simple. It's lentils and dal, dal and lots of vegetables and lots of spices. And turmeric is probably the world's best spice. It's in ginger family. So turmeric and ginger are huge. And
we were discussing avocado oil just to get back to that.
So avocado oil, my view is eat the avocados. Try and get them organic if you can. The oil is very popular now. I think they make it out of rotten avocados, and there are no standards for it. Like there are standards for oils. They're bad standards, but they don't have no standards for. The standards have been suggested. Like if you read the research, standards have been suggested for avocado oil, but the avocado oil industry has not set standards.
Do they still do the thing that you talked about where they heat it for half an hour and add chemicals to it? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, it's the same like all the oils. They treat them with sodium hydroxide, which we know as Drano in our house.
Oh my gosh.
That's what we burn the clogged sink pipes with. So sodium hydroxide, then phosphoric acid, which is used to clean windows commercially. Then we bleach them with bleaching clays. Then they go rancid and smell bad. Then we have to deodorize them or de-stinkerize them because they smell bad, right? And then you have an oil, colorless, odorless, tasteless. You can't tell what it came from because all the flavor molecules of whatever made the oil, whatever seed or nut made the oil, the flavor molecules are gone. The color molecules are gone, colorless, odorless, tasteless. And then, they say, oh, yeah, and you can use it for frying. So it's already wrecked, and now you wreck it more. So I eat avocados pretty much every day. I really like them. I never use the oil. I don't have, actually, the only oil I have in my house is my oil. Because I know what's in there. I know what it is. I know what the quality. I like the quality because we literally, nobody takes care of oils like we do. And it's just like, why is that? Because they need the oil. If you want a really good oil, you need to care for it, to protect it from light, oxygen, heat. In glass, in a box, in the fridge, in the factory in the fridge, in the store in the fridge, at home in the fridge, and you basically use it on foods after they come off the heat.
You have 3 different oil blends. Can we talk about the difference between the 3? And also, I don't know if this is a patented process, but could you walk us what you can share? Could you share what you do differently that other supplement companies don't do? For example, do you do it in nitrogen chamber, or like how do you process? And I understand there's probably some proprietary information, but
I can
get into the details of what you can share. What makes Udo's oil different from other supplement companies?
Well, so when I realized how much damage is done to oils after I got poisoned, I said I can't get healthy on oils like that. We should make them with health in mind. Because the industry makes the oils with shelf life in mind.
Right.
And oils by nature have a short shelf life because they're super, super sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and heat. So they figured out if they take out parts of it, they can stabilize the oil. Then they nitrogen flush it. Everybody does that. So you don't have oxygen in the headspace, in the bottle, in the oil, because the oil will react with the molecules and make them rancid. So the industry did that, and I said, well, I can't get healthy on damaged oils. We should make them with health in mind. How do you do that? Well, if they're damaged by light, oxygen, and heat, you have to make sure that no light, oxygen, or heat, or high temperature, I can explain that in a second, gets to the oil from the time it's closed in the seed in nature's packaging, which is pretty good. They had flax seeds. They found 5,000 years old in caves in Switzerland, and they planted them, and they grew into flax plants.
I love that.
5,000 years. So nature's packaging is pretty good, right? So from the time it's in nature's packaging through the whole process until it's in the brown glass bottle, nitrogen flushed with a box around it in the fridge, no light, no oxygen should be able to get to the oil. And the heat needs to be low. And the reason for that is that if the heat is low, you have to get to 160 degrees Celsius or 320 degrees Fahrenheit before the heat damages the oil and starts creating trans fatty acids, and then exponentially makes more of them as the temperature goes up from there. So you want to keep it below 160, and we actually do it at about somewhere between 60 and 80 degrees Celsius. Okay, but no light and oxygen is present, so you're not doing damage with that heat. Okay, so fundamentally, what you have to do is you have to produce a really, really tight system, and the industry doesn't do that because what they say is we can make a mess at the front end, and then we'll clean up the mess with chemical processing at the back end. And we said, why don't we stop? Why don't we not make a mess at the front end? Then we don't have a mess to clean up at the back end. And why don't we start with organically grown seeds? Then we don't have to heat the oil to frying temperature to get rid of half of the pesticides.
And the seeds,
right?
I'm guessing the seeds are raw. They're organic, but they're also raw, right?
Well, they're always raw. Yeah, you don't.
But they're not like roasted or.
No, hell no, no, God, no. They have to be raw. They have to be fresh, raw, organic seeds, and then you put them through the thing. But you have to have that so tight that no light, no oxygen, and no temperature over 100 gets to the oil in anywhere in the process. And that requires a very tight system. So my claim to fame, and I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association's Hall of Fame for starting the industry of making oils with health in mind. And it requires that kind of tightness simply because the oils are so sensitive to damage done by light, oxygen, and heat. So I created that. And then we started making flaxseed oil because omega-3s are too low in 99% of the population. Mm-hmm. And then I became omega-6 deficient on flax oil because it has a lot of omega-3, not enough omega-6. And that's what prompted me to make the blend, because you have to get the balance right, and that's important. So,
would you say, though, that people who are still eating meat, so if they want to add your oil, but they're still eating meat, so they're getting a lot of omega-6. So you don't strictly sell a flax only oil. Would someone who's still eating, like maybe they're eating more whole foods, but they're incorporating like eggs, chicken, meat in their diet, they're getting more omega-6.
Well,
is your blend gonna help them?
You know what? The omega-6s in meat, they're not in beef, they're not in sheep, they're not in goats, because those animals actually knock down the omega-6s and omega-3s in grass and turn them into saturated, monounsaturated, and a little bit of trans fatty acids. So that part is not true. Oh. Pork will have omega-3s in it, but only if you feed it a source of omega-3s, because pork doesn't make omega-3s. Neither do the other animals. Chicken, most of the omega-6s in chicken are in the skin. Most people throw that out. The meat itself doesn't have a lot of omega-6s in it.
So what in the average American diet is omega-6?
Yeah, where most people get their omega-6s is from all the cooking oils.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they all have omega-6s in. Right? They all have omega-6s. A few of them have a little bit of omega-3. Most of them just have omega-6s. And so most of the oil that people are saying is coming from the foods is actually coming from the oils they fry them in. And that's another mistake that the people who say no omega-6s, no seed oils. They're doing half the homework. They're not doing all the homework. So they're blaming things on the oils that should be blamed on the damage done to them. And they're inaccurate about the source of omega-6. It's mostly from seeds, nuts, which people don't eat that much of, but mainly from oils. So, so in that sense, they're right if you say don't use those oils. But they're wrong when they say that omega-6s cause cancer and kill you, because omega-6s are essential nutrients.
What's causing cancer? So it's correlation, not causation, because what's causing the cancer is eating like you said, burnt meat. When you say burnt, it's more like caramelized. Like they go, ooh, that char meat, right?
Yeah, when you turn it from green to yellow, from yellow to light brown, from light brown to dark brown, from dark brown to black, and from black into smoke, you're doing damage to it all the way along.
So getting that char, that caramelization on the meat is the acrylamides, the heterocyclogamines, or even the potatoes. Then
the industry says we're what do they call it? We're something in the flavor. It's like we're frying in the flavor. No, you're not. You're burning the damn meat. You're turning the meat into poison, and you're poisoning yourself with the poisoned meat.
Yeah, and so the correlation between high omega-6 and cancer is the high omega-6 cooking oils, cooking in high heat, and especially cooking meat in high heat, but also certain vegetables in high heat, like potato skins, like frying potatoes.
Yeah, the burnt part is burnt. Yeah. but anything, you can get cancer. You can get cancer from thinking stupid too, like from negativity and depression, right? So anything that knocks down the immune system, but in the physical realm, any molecule that doesn't belong in the body, that isn't natural to nature, that isn't, could, they don't all, but could interfere with the immune function, because the immune function goes in there and says, what the hell is this? And then it swells, then it lowers circulation to try and isolate while it's trying to can't figure out what to do about it, because we don't have genes to break down burnt oils. So then it figures it out, and you get chronic inflammation, and you get chronic circulation problems, and you get chronic lack of oxygen, and that's what cancer cells like, right? So we're any molecule that is not natural could have some effects like that. They don't all do that, but any of them could, and the ones that are burnt clearly do. Acrylamides and all of those molecules, and those being isolated and studied, and we know that they cause cancer, and they've done studies and they've given them to animals and cause cancer in animals. So we know a lot about that, but we're not acting on it and doing what we ought to be doing, which is like, don't do that to your food, and don't eat food that's been done to.
I think a really important thing to remember, and I love your perspective, because you've been around the block long enough to have observed this shift. So I'm 44, and
is there an F in that word you just said?
For 44?
No, shift.
Oh, a shift.
Yeah, take the F out, and then it may be more accurate.
No. So what? Yeah, exactly. Well, it's definitely gone down the toilet the last 30 years. But,
there you go.
So
you did that very elegantly.
Thank you. I have this unique perspective. Hey, we're a family show, okay? So I have this unique perspective where I remember life before, and I guess living in Canada, it kind of happened a little later. Like, fast food wasn't as big of a deal, right? When I moved to the States in 2005, 2006, I was like, it was like a kid in a candy store. I couldn't believe how much accessibility there was to fast food, right? It was definitely a shift. It wasn't like on every single city block in Canada like it was down when I moved down to the States. And but something happened if we go back in time, and of course you remember this, but I think we need to learn from that wisdom of time, that there was a time when that food wasn't convenient and fast, where we had to, think ahead when it came to cooking, because we really had limited processed food. Most of our food was whole food. And also, if you think about now, they call it organic versus conventionally grown. And I hate that Orwellian, marketing.
When I was a kid, organic was not even a term. Right. All food was organic.
All food was organic, and that was conventional. They're using the term conventional to make poisoned food sound good, right?
Yeah,
it's
just like they do in medicine. Conventional healthcare is the doctor
standard.
and the pharmaceuticals,
right?
And then they call the other one alternative healthcare.
Medicine. No. Complementary medicine. No, this was the original medicine, and what you're doing is chemical crap, right? Yes,
exactly. So we're So even the way the words are being used, we're being lied to and being misled.
We have to start to question our own belief system, because we've been raised in the milieu of the marketing.
Yeah.
If we go back.
Or you look at nature. How was it in nature? If you ever see a squirrel with a frying pan, then you know that this is a natural process. You might see a squirrel in a frying pan, but you're never going to see one with a frying pan, cooking its nuts, right?
I hope not.
Yeah.
So when we go back far enough, though, I remember when cigarette companies got to advertise, and that sort of changed, and they made it illegal for cigarette companies to advertise. And the cigarette companies saw their profits going down as people became at least marginally health conscious. Like, hey, smoking went from my doctor recommended it to my doctor doesn't recommend it anymore.
Yeah.
And what the cigarette companies did back in, I'm thinking it was around the 90s, is that they began to invest in food companies. And a lot of people don't understand that this history. But those of us who are old enough remember before the cigarette companies owned food companies, our grocery stores were there's a lot less options. There's a lot less processed food. There's a lot less, convenient fried foods on every corner. And they invested in food companies, and they took their same scientists that their entire job is how to make us addicted to things. And they took food scientists to figure out, how do I make processed food addictive?
Yep.
And creating these cheap oils. They're using the cheapest ingredients to make the largest margins, and they don't care if they're hurting us. And these processed foods, if you open a package, you have to think this was made in a factory. This didn't come from the farm. It came from a factory. So opening a package, and especially if there's ingredients you don't recognize, these are man-made chemicals that food scientists were paid to figure out how to trigger your dopamine receptors and make you highly addicted to these foods. And snacking. So the health epidemic that we've seen, the disease epidemic we've seen since the 90s has taken off largely because we are just now, instead of buying cigarettes, we're buying from the same companies, but we're buying we're buying our cigarettes, but you're doing a pack a day, but it's like Doritos. Instead.
There's two problems. They're lying and we're not thinking.
Yeah.
Those are the two problems.
Got to start to think.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
And I always go back to nature. What is it like in nature before we got civilized? How does nature work? Nature's mandate for every creature: fresh, whole, raw, organic.
Yeah.
Local. It's like, okay, that's nature's standard for health for the creatures that eat in nature. Fresh, whole, raw, organic, local. And then probably seasonal, sun-ripe, for us, probably more plant-based than animal-based, and you can argue some of that, but you can't really argue that in nature, every creature, except the animals we feed, got all its food fresh, whole, raw, organic. You can't even argue that. So why is it with all creatures in nature, are we the only creatures that supposedly can be healthy, frying the hell out of our food, or frying the heaven out of our foods?
Right. One of my mentors, and he helped me recover my health. I had type 2 diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I was infertile. He helped me reverse all my health issues.
And you were 80 pounds overweight, right?
I had a lot more health issues going on. I had liver disease. I had a lot of stuff going on. But the major thing is that he helped me clean up my diet. He helped me, got me on some supplements, clean up my diet, and that perspective of the foods and how we've been raised to think about food really needs to shift.
Yeah.
I want to ask about two more things. I want to go to olive oil, because I feel like people are thinking, well, isn't olive oil healthy? Isn't it? And this mentor that I had, one of the first things he had me do is cut out all cooking oils, 100% no cooking oils, not even a drop of cooking oils, even olive oil. He's like, eat the olive, don't eat the olive oil, and for many reasons. And then, he had me stop cooking in high heat. And it's kind of crazy to think that we're the only, species, we're the only animal that cooks food on a regular, like, can you think of the last time, not you, but like the listener, when's the last time you ate a fully raw meal? And I'm not saying you have to be 100% raw, but very few of us choose to eat a percentage of our foods raw. Like, eat a cucumber, eat an apple, eat some sprouts, right? Eat a tomato, have some just raw, or eat like you do with the with the wonderful broccoli.
Yeah.
Just eating it raw. I love it that way. I love
Yeah.
dipping broccoli into a dip and eating it, and preserving the enzymes in it.
Yeah.
Most people go years without eating a fully raw meal or adding some raw foods to their meal because they don't think about it because we've been
Yeah.
raised in a system. So we have to start to question the system we were raised in.
So what happens is if you eat your food raw, there are enzymes in the food that when you chew it properly, they will do on average 60% of the digestion of the food for you. It's like from 10 to 90% depending on the food. So 60%, if you cook it, you destroy those enzymes. Now your digestive system has to do more than twice as much work. Because now that 60% that the enzymes self-digest, your body has to deal with it. And your body was made for raw foods coming out of nature. So you more than double the load on your digestive system. Then your immune system has to get involved. And then your immune system is not as free to go after its other jobs, like knocking out cancer cells and dealing with viruses and bacteria. So you've put on a huge load on your digestive system. And there are some people who say all disease starts in your digestive tract because of that. So fundamentally, if you're going to cook your food, then replace the enzymes you destroyed when you cooked the food. And replace the probiotics that you killed when you cooked the food. Because in nature, creatures get their probiotics on plants. That's
right.
where a cow gets them, on the grass. There's probiotics on it. So the cow doesn't need to take a probiotic supplement as long as it eats raw grass, right? So if you kill them, if you kill the probiotics and you destroy the enzymes when you cook, you need to replace them. Otherwise, you put a load into your digestive system that it can't handle, and that will catch up with you. And that's why people have so many digestion problems. Then you add fiber for bowel regularity and stabilizing blood sugar and feeding the probiotics. And then you add bitters that help with digestion and liver function. Liver deals with a lot of what you absorb from digestion. And that solves most of the digestive problems. So you can, and like I said, people who eat mostly raw foods, they still get benefits from adding enzymes to it. So now they're getting more enzymes than they would have got in nature, and they say that works better for them. So you can't, and this is just like what I'm talking about, taking steps to get back in line with how it was in nature before we got civilized.
We've been taught, we have to remember, we have to start to question everything we've been taught, at least test everything we've been taught. And we've been marketed to that olive oil is healthy.
Yeah, so
they talk about how, the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest diet, and it's because they drink a lot of olive oil.
No, it's not.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, the Mediterranean diet is healthy because there are lots of good vegetables in it. And it also comes from a time, the Mediterranean diet wasn't invented yesterday. That's like a long historical tradition. So their meat was cleaner, and because they weren't fattening them up with grains, and they weren't shooting them full of probiotics, antibiotics, pesticides, and hormones. So, and in Europe, they tend not to do things as crazily as we do in North America either. They're a little bit more, and maybe it's the culture because they have that culture. They still remember some of that stuff. So olive oil is good because it's not damaged by the processing. If it's an extra virgin olive oil and they're not lying about it. And I'll tell you why I say that in a second. But so that's a good thing, right? Because there are two issues. One is you got to get the essential fatty acids undamaged in the right ratio. And you need to get them both. And the other issue is you need your oils undamaged. Well, extra virgin olive oil, if it's really extra virgin, hasn't been damaged by processing because they squish the olive that comes out of the flesh of the olives and it floats off on water, and they don't put it through the chemical feast
or the heating.
So, yeah, the chemical feast or the heating. That's right. And so it's good from that perspective. But from the perspective of essential fatty acids, it has no omega-3s in it. or less than 1%. It only has 10% omega-6. Those are the two essentials. 80% is monounsaturated, and your body can make that out of potatoes. So you don't need that. And then the other 10% is saturated, and again, your body can make that out of potatoes.
And the medicinal benefits, just eat actual olives, because they talk about the flavonoids and all that. I'm like, you know what? They're throwing most of that away. That's in the water. If anything, they should be selling, olive water. And let us drink the stuff they throw away, because that's where like the flavonoids and the medicinal stuff, it's in there.
Yeah, you would get more of that, although you will get them in extra virgin unrefined olive oil. You will get some of those benefits, so that's okay.
But you can't heat it, and you have to make sure there was no oxygen, and it was stored in a glass bottle with zero oxygen.
That's mostly is not so bad. You get a little scratchy taste that can be from rancidity or free fatty acids. But the other thing that hasn't gotten as much attention is that olive oil became very popular like 20 years ago. And the demand for olive oil like skyrocketed. But olive trees grow really slowly. And so what happened is the demand exceeded the supply. So what many olive oil makers started to do is they started to dilute the olive oil with canola or soybean oil, and then called it olive oil. And then you're talking about all the processing damage again. And the way you find out, the way I do it, is if you get a bottle of olive oil and you stick it in your fridge, it should go solid, or it should at least form crystals. But even it should really go solid. If it doesn't go solid, there may be something else in it.
I noticed that recently at the local health food grocery store called PCC, the Puget Sound Co-op down here.
Yeah.
You know PCC probably, because your products are there.
I've given talks there.
Oh my gosh! Well, the next time you come down to give talks, I want to shake your hand and give you a hug.
Yeah.
So here with PCC, the local grocery store, healthy grocery store, they I'll read. Sometimes I'll look at the like it looks like healthy packaged food. Like they'll make it there in house.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, like a lentil soup. I'm like, so I'll grab the lentil soup and I'm reading the ingredients to see if I want to take that home. If I'm like really busy. And I noticed, because if it says oil, I won't buy it. But I noticed it used to just say olive oil, and I'm like, ugh, and I put it back on the shelf. I'm not buying it. Okay, so because sometimes once in a while they do oil-free stuff, and then I picked it up lately. It says olive oil, canola oil right after olive oil, or it says like olive oil blend, and then in brackets it says olive oil, canola oil, something
there
else.
You go.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? They're cutting costs, but they're at least putting it on the label. But I noticed that canola oil was being wrapped up in, and they call it an olive oil blend, which sounds so innocent. And they're just cutting corners.
And by the way, the olive oil is pretty expensive, and the canola oil is really cheap. So they're doing it for that reason as well.
Yep.
But I think that started because there was a supply issue, because a lot of people started talking about olive oil is a good oil. Because the deal is because it's not damaged by the processing, but they didn't make that clear.
Well, it's going to get damaged when you start cooking with it. If people use olive oil, they start cooking on high heat. They're going to create the negative health effects because they're cooking with olive oil.
No, they will create, if you're cooking with oil or fat, if you use hard fats like saturated fats like coconut butter, like that kind of stuff, you get less damage, but you still get damage because you're still burning the food. So you're still making toxic molecules. But the more omega-3 and 6 you have in an oil, the more damage is done in the frying pan to that oil. So the more toxic those oils become. So if you're going to be stupid and fry, then use the hardest fat you can find and use the shortest time possible.
God.
But my view is like people say, well, what can I fry with? Oh, yeah, that's the Russian roulette question. You want to know what you can get away with. You don't get away with anything.
No, don't.
But frying, so when they say, is there a good oil to fry with? No, but there's a less bad one. So the saturated fats are less bad, but they're not good.
Right.
And if they're rich in omega, no, of course, because you're not getting the omega 3s and 6s.
Right.
You're not getting the omega 3s particularly. Omega 3 deficiency, the single most widespread nutrient deficiency of our time. 99% of the population does not get enough for optimum health.
And that's both from both ends, because they're not consuming things that are high in omega 3 and healthy omega 6, but they're also eating other types of fats that are then preventing the body from, like you said, it's preventing the body from absorbing and using the healthy fats.
Yeah, they can get function deficient from having too much omega 6. Yeah.
So that's why you want to supplement with the omega 3, but at the same, and the omega 6 blend, but at the same time you need to decrease or eliminate the other types of fat that the processed fat, like canola oil.
Yeah, we tell people to get off those oils because they're toxic. So you want to get your omega 6s also made with health in mind. So when we do the blend, the omega 3s are missing, so we're bringing the omega 3s in, made with health in mind. And we're saying to people, get off those cooking oils and get your omega 3s also made with health in mind. So we're doing both when in the blend.
You have 3 blends. Can you explain?
I use the basic one, 369. The second blend has DHA in it. There's some research that says that people over 50 or maybe pregnant women might be able to benefit from having having DHA preformed.
Especially women who have, and men too, who have lower, like their hormones, if they just have lower, they notice they have lower progesterone or estrogen or testosterone, that, DHA is that wonderful precursor the body can use to help balance that out, as well as support the brain.
Well, DHA is not DHEA. DHEA turns into testosterone and progesterone, and DHA is an omega-3 essential fatty acid derivative. So
the body can make DHEA from omega-3.
No. The body can make DHA from alpha-linolenic acid.
Got it.
DHEA is a precursor. It's a steroid precursor for testosterone. They're completely different things. The body does not make DHEA out of omega-3s.
It does make it out of cholesterol. Yes,
that's correct.
Cholesterol, and the body needs healthy fats to make cholesterol.
No, the cholesterol is made. You can make cholesterol out of sugar.
I want to have you back on the show because I love that topic, because a lot of people, they're told they have to take cholesterol meds. And it's like, why didn't your doctor tell you that you can balance and get a healthy balance from diet?
What the problem, with cholesterol is your body can make cholesterol out of 2 carbon fragments, and you can get those from fats and you can get those from carbs, right? But the body can't break it down once it's made. So if you don't have enough fiber to escort it through the liver, through the gallbladder, into the gut, into the toilet, then up to 94% of the cholesterol can get reabsorbed, and you lose your exit mechanism. Then you get stressed. That increases cholesterol production. And between not enough fiber and stress is the most simple, probably the most widespread reason for why people have high cholesterol.
Yeah. Start eating more plants and see what happens.
And again, it's always about being out of line with nature. Right? Okay, so now the second blend has DHA in it. That's for older people. I don't use it because they say that your brain shrinks after 50. I don't think my brain is shrinking. I'm letting my body make the DHA itself, but I make sure I take enough oil for that to happen. And then the third one is called high lignan, and that has some seed material in the oil. And what they do is they don't let the seed material all settle out. And that's a copy of something somebody else did. They gave you less oil and charged you more for it because they said they got lignans in it. But if you want lignans, just eat the flax seeds. Grind the flax seed up and eat the flax seeds. So I use the basic blend. It's the least expensive, and it does the job.
And I think it tastes delicious. That's just me.
Don't take it off a spoon. Mix it in foods. It enhances flavors and improves the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients.
And we just have to remember that not all fat is created equal, not all oils are created equal, and that we're using a food extract basically as a nutrient that we're highly deficient in.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, it's not a supplement. It's a food oil.
Right.
So you use Udo's oil you use that instead of the cooking oils, but you don't cook with it. Right. You use it in food preparation. And you take about a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day in winter, and maybe a half to 2/3 of that in summer. You need more in winter than in summer.
It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. I really want to have you back, especially to talk about your books and just to go deeper with you. I just think it's really important that we understand the nuances of nutrition and that we start to question everything we've been taught. Because if you're not happy with your health, and a lot of people aren't, 70% of adult Americans are on at least one prescription medication. That means at least 70% of the population is unhappy with their health.
Hey, that's the same percentage that's eating ultra-processed foods, isn't it?
Right, exactly. So there's definitely something there.
And it's the same number of people who are overweight and obese.
So
I wonder if that means something.
There's a lot of complexity, but there's also a lot of simplicity in that you've definitely cleared up some things today. Coming back to nature and being willing to start to question our own belief system around food. Don't have diet dogma. I think that's really important. And I even say that, don't have diet dogma. Start to question how you eat, and also just begin to make certain changes. Start to add and take away and get closer to nature, and then notice what happens. And check out Udo's oil. Your website, the link to your website is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast.
udoschoice.com and udoerasmus.com are my two websites. But I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I got a YouTube channel, and I'm not hard to find.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure all the links are in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com.
Yeah.
Thank you, Udo. It's been such a pleasure having you, and I can't wait to have you back.
Okay, let's do it. Thanks, Ashley.
These are the same supplements that I have been using myself personally, my family, and my clients for the last 12 and a half years. These are the same supplements that helped me to overcome my chronic diseases. I used to have type 2 diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and I don't have any of those things anymore. The holistic doctors that informed these supplements discovered that the root cause of disease is a lack of key nutrients. There are 90 essential nutrients the body needs, and we're not getting them from our food anymore because of the farming practices of the last 100 years. So no matter how healthy we eat, we're still missing what our body needs to create optimal health. Because you listen to this health podcast and you're looking for health solutions, you will love working with the team at takeyoursupplements.com. These are health coaches that just like me, overcame their own health issues using, of course, eating healthy lifestyle. But the key fundamental thing that they added were these supplements. These supplements encompass all 90 essential nutrients. And when you talk to your health coach, they will help to customize a plan specifically to your needs and your health goals. You will start feeling amazing right away. Within the first month of taking these supplements, everyone notices better sleep, more mental clarity, better energy, overall sense of well-being that takes over their life. And they are so happy that they got on these supplements. I want you to give it a try. There's a money-back guarantee, and there's amazing health coaches waiting to help you at takeyoursupplements.com, and it's free to talk to them. So what are you waiting for? Go to takeyoursupplements.com right now, sign up for a free consultation, and in a month, you could be feeling on top of the world, just like I did. I was so sick. I felt so horrible, and I overcame that. I had to obviously make healthy choices around every area of my life. I had to change my diet. I had to change my lifestyle. But I needed to fill in those nutrient gaps, and that's where Take Your Supplements comes in. They help you to make sure that you're getting all 90 essential nutrients. So your cell, every cell in your body, all 37.2 trillion cells in your body will be bathed in all the nutrients that they need so that you can live an optimal life full of health and vitality at any age. Go to takeyoursupplements.com and talk to one of them today. They can help you right now to begin to make that health transformation. That's takeyoursupplements.com.